I was very excited one evening because I found a way to buy contraceptions over the internet at a very cheap price. I felt very satisfied with myself and spent the entire afternoon in the garage drinking pot after pot of coffee and working on a model airplane that I bought at the mall that morning. Needless to say, your parents were coming over and I was very stressed out before I drank so much coffee, and I did not like your parents. When we got inside, we had eaten dinner and we were all sitting around having drinks. Your dad started to tell about war stories from Korea. I told him, that's bullshit, I do not buy that shit for a second, you aren't even in Korea, you fucking faggot, now get the fuck out of my house. He looked at me with a puzzled look, for he'd never heard anything like this out of my mouth before. I lunged at him and started choking him, dragged him out in front of the house and severely beat him with a hose, spraying water and laughing hysterically. The rest of your family jumped out, dived on me, and started to stomp on my back and neck. I had been paralyzed from the neck down. I was in the hospital, and you came very so quietly, very sexily, dressed up like a nurse, giving me blowjobs that I could not feel. You then dressed up like a doctor and gave me blowjobs that I could not feel. You then dressed up like an insurance adjuster, gave me blowjobs, writing out bills that I had to pay. This I felt because I felt it in my brain, and I felt it in my heart. I kissed you in the mouth, and then I never saw you again, because I took another identity once again and moved to Mexico.
It was a very calm winter night. I wanted to show you something very special about myself. Disclose the creative side to you about me. And what it was I took you to my room holding your hand, giggling like a little girl, right? Taking your hand, I took you into the room. And I opened up a drawer. What was in it? Little figurines that I've been making over the past months of you and I in various sexual positions. Although I would always leave my face blank, and yours would be in extreme detail. You said that this really turned you on when I told you this. How foolish I was at that time, because while you were doing that, and as I was explaining it, you were tying my shoes together, shoelaces. I stood up, I fell, and I smashed my face against the floor, blood dripping everywhere. You took me to the hospital as fast as you could. I'll never forget the way you were driving at a medium pace, even though there was no traffic. It was very interesting to me, and something I don't think I will ever forget about you physically, sexually, and literally.
We were teenagers, teenage boy and teenage girl, engaging in sexual play, unwanted at times, very hypersexual and hyper-aware of what was going on. We spent the night one night after a beautiful night of lovemaking, and I woke up. You sticking raisins down my urethra, down the tip of my dick, with a rope strapped around my dick and balls so I could not feel it. I woke up looking at my dick with raisins packed into it. There must have been 13 or 14 raisins jammed on my dick. I went to the hospital that very same day, and it cost me several thousands of dollars to get it removed. I was infuriated. I called you on the phone, yelling at you, screaming at you, demanding my money back. You came riding over on a horse with a mace in your hand, and you beat me in the back. It was very weird, strange, but also very satisfying, for this horse winked at me as it rode away and said, "I'll be with you forever. I'll be with you forever." And it was in my dreams, fantasies, and lifestyle. I saw two girls in Staten Island bar that I must have for myself, so I took them back to my apartment, a very lavish apartment at the time. We were fooling around, blowing each other, giving each other hand jobs, when suddenly I said to them, "You girls hungry? You want a pizza? Because here's a trick I learned in college on how to get a free pizza." We ordered the pizza and continued to fool around. The pizza delivery man came and I went to the door. I put a plastic bag over his head and shot him, dragged him into my bathtub and dumped lime on him so nobody would smell the smell. You two were terrified, some terrified girls, and I wouldn't let you leave for fear that I would kill you, which I would have at the time. I made you sit there and eat the pizza in silence, staring at each other, and if you looked away, I would threaten to shoot you. My cell phone then rang, and on the other end was a sweepstakes. It turns out I entered the sweepstakes earlier that year, and I won a digital camera as a result. It was the best day of my life.
Fancy restaurants, first dates, sniffing each other out like two mad dogs. I took you to a fancy restaurant to feel you out, and so that you can get an idea of who I was and of who you were. Little did you know that after the meal, unpaid, I went to the washroom and snuck out of the washroom window. Driving so fast, I didn't think anyone would catch up with me. Luckily, you did. You began honking and yelling at me behind me on the road. I thought I was in the clear. I was not. I had no choice but to knock you off the road and into a tree where you were in a car accident. Unbeknownst to me, You date raped me with the drug in my water. I crashed the car a couple minutes later down the road, and I was in a coma for 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, you would come and rub your vagina on my face. I was very grateful because you videotaped it and showed it to me later on.